Good morning and a very warm welcome. You are watching Janata Television and this is English Bulletin with me, Utsa Bhattrai. The top stories first. Prime Minister Oli assures of safeguarding achievements of a Federal Republic, tells Desdem leaders to return to mainstream party. Schools in Kathmandu Valley to open from today. Local authorities give a green signal for resuming classes. Nepali expedition team creates new mountaineering record, becomes the first team to climb K2 peak during winter season. International troops pour into Washington for additional security. States vow to quell possible violence on January 20. And Leicester City jumps to second in the Premier League table after a 2-0 win. Chelsea earn a hard-fought victory at Fulham. And now, the news in detail. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has assured that the country will not lose the achievements of the Federal Republic. Speaking at a program organized in the Valley yesterday, Prime Minister Oli reiterated that no power can reverse the achievements made by the Nepali citizens after a long struggle and sacrifices. A report.
Speculation is rife that the Federal Republic itself is in danger due to the government's move to dissolve the House of Representatives last month, but Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has assured that the status of the Federal Republic will remain intact. Addressing a mass gathering of Province 1 cadres in Kathmandu yesterday, Prime Minister Oli assured everyone to have faith in the system and democracy.
दुःख लागेछ केपी ओली मान्छे हँसाउँछ मान्छे हँसाएर हिँड्छ अनि के म मान्छे मार्दै विधवा बनाउँदै मैले दुनियाँलाई रुवाउँदै हिँडौँ हँसाउँदै हिँड्छ मान्छे म त्यसैको अनुहारमा मुस्कान ल्याउन चाहन्छु.
Prime Minister Oli lamented that his efforts to bring a smile on the faces of Nepali citizens via light humor has been misconstrued by some people as a comic stunt.
यति लामो संघर्ष गरेर बलिदानपूर्ण संघर्ष गरेर जुन उपलब्धि हासिल गरेका छौं त्यो कसैको इशारामा कसैले कसैको स्वार्थका लागि वा आफ्नै निजी स्वार्थका लागि कसैले पनि जनताले प्राप्त गरेका यी उपलब्धिहरूलाई
Prime Minister Oli has requested disgruntled leaders Pushpa Kamal Dahal, Madhav Kumar Nepal and Jhalanath Khanal to return back to mainstream party and political line. All of the leaders have been opposing the dissolution of the lower house. Prime Minister Oli accused the opposing leaders of ignoring his pleas to attend the Central Committee meeting with different excuses.
मलाई अचम्म लाग्यो केन्द्रीय कमिटीमा बैठकमा आएनन् नेताहरू कहाँ गए भनेर माइती घर मण्डलमा देखियो यहाँ छौँ म माइती घर मण्डलमा पुगेँ छैनन् फेरि साथी कहाँ हराए निर्वाचन आयोगमा पुगे.
Prime Minister Oli assured everyone that midterm elections will take place on the scheduled date and requested everyone to prepare for fresh elections.
Schools and educational institutions of the Kathmandu Valley that have remained shut since a long time are set to reopen from today. Majority of the schools in the valley have prepared to resume classes from today after the local authorities gave a green signal for reopening of schools starting January 14. Schools throughout the country had begun online classes in June last year amid extended lockdown. Some other schools have already begun regular classes in the physical presence of teachers and students. All schools will be conducted in the physical presence of teachers and students after adopting necessary health protocols, Papson said. Sanitizers and thermal guns will be present on the premises of each school, Papson added. The school will also require the presence of a nurse and isolation beds along with mandatory face mask rules for both teachers and students. Minister for Foreign Affairs Pradeep Gyawali informed his recent visit to India has further strengthened the bilateral ties between the two countries. Minister Gyawali returned home after participating in the meeting organised by Nepal-India Foreign Ministerial Level Joint Committee. The visit will help cement the friendship and multidimensional aspect of long-existing Nepal-India relations, Foreign Minister Gyawali said. The meeting also discussed about the procedures to import the COVID-19 vaccine to Nepal, Minister Gyawali informed.
बैठकमा नेपाल भारत बीच सञ्चालित विकास आयोजनाहरू शीघ्र र प्रभावकारी रूपमा सम्पन्न गर्ने बारे छलफल भएको छ। छलफलको महत्त्वपूर्ण विषयको रूपमा रहेको कोभिड भ्याक्सिनको तत्कालको टडकारो आवश्यकता पूर्ति गर्ने बारेमा भारतसँग छलफल भएको छ। भ्याक्सिन सहयोगमा नेपाल प्राथमिकतामा रहने कुरा भारतले स्पष्ट पारेको छ।
The meeting also reportedly discussed about gradually resuming air and road service closed due to COVID-19 risk, handing over the completed sections of the postal highways and swift construction of remaining sections. Similarly, the MOU of the field location for the construction of Raxaul-Kathmandu railway has reached the final stage, and therefore the meeting has agreed to begin the construction soon.
कोभिडका कारण बन्द हवाई तथा स्थल मार्गहरू अनुकूलता हेरी क्रमशः खुल्दै जाने निर्णय भएको छ। तराई हुलाकी सडक अन्तर्गतका 14 खण्डमध्ये सम्पन्न 11वटा खण्डहरू हस्तान्तरणको प्रक्रियामा पुगेका छन्। तिनको हस्तान्तरणको प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढाउने र बाँकी 3वटा खण्ड शीघ्र सम्पन्न गर्ने विषयमा कुराकानी भएको छ। रक्सौल काठमाडौँ रेल निर्माण सम्बन्धमा फिल्ड लोकेसन सर्वे FLS का लागि MOU अन्तिम चरणमा पुगेको छ। यो कार्य शीघ्र सुरु गर्ने दिशामा सहमति भएको छ।
The meeting also discussed about utilization of grants and loans provided by India in the post-earthquake phase and finalization of different projects, Minister Gyawali further said. Coronavirus continues to claim lives across the country, but the number of new cases have reduced significantly. The disease claimed 6 more lives in the country yesterday, taking the death toll to 1,954. The government yesterday confirmed 240 new cases of coronavirus across the country. Following the latest round of tests, the total cases of coronavirus in the country have climbed to 267,056, while the number of active cases has dropped to 4,058. According to the Ministry of Health and Population, altogether 261,044 infected persons have recovered from the disease in the country so far. Nepal is currently among the top 42 countries that have been most affected by the pandemic. The US tops the list with 24.3 million confirmed cases, followed by India with 10.55 million cases. Coronavirus has infected more than 94.9 million people across the world and claimed over 2 million lives. In other news, the government has been accused of being indifferent towards delivering justice to the victims of serious human rights violation during the armed conflict. A warning program was held on Kathmandu yesterday, saying that the government and political parties have delayed justice to the families of one of the victims, Muktinatha Adhikari, even 19 years after his murder. Adhikari, a teacher by profession, was murdered on January 16, 2002 by the Maoist insurgents. A Truth and Reconciliation Commission had been set up to bring justice to the victims of serious human rights violation during the armed conflict era and to take action against perpetrators. But the victims have been complaining that the Commission has failed to provide any form of justice. Suman Adhikari, the son of the victim, has knocked the doors of all government bodies, all political parties and all commissions in these 19 years, but in vain. Conflict victims have been fighting for justice for years. It is alleged that the two commissions formed to provide justice are working in the interest of the political parties to give a clean sheet to the perpetrators rather than giving justice to the victims. A 10-member expedition team from Nepal achieved a historic feat yesterday by successfully climbing Pakistan's K2 peak during the winter season. No one had ever scaled the world's second highest peak during winter season prior to this out of the 14 highest peaks above 8,000 meters. Only K2 was left to be conquered during the winter season when the weather is harsh and hostile. However, the 10-man team achieved the milestone yesterday against all odds. The team included Nirmal Purja, Mingmaji Sherpa, Mingma David Sherpa, Mingma Tenzing Sherpa, Gyalje Sherpa, Dawatamba Sherpa, Pemgiri Sherpa, Kilupemba Sherpa, Dawa Tenzing Sherpa and Sonam Sherpa. They reached the peak of the 8,611 meters mountain at 5:45 p.m. yesterday. Among the 10 climbers, Mingmaji Sherpa climbed the peak without using artificial oxygen. And now, the news from economic front. More than 90% of all oil processing factories in Parsa and Bara are struggling to keep up the production after India banned palm oil. The ban on the import of palm oil has put large investment in the processing plants at risk. There is a huge demand of palm oil in India, while it is one of the most exported items from Nepal. Refined palm oil, which was on the export list on the fiscal year 2076-77, 2019-2020 has been removed from the export list from July to November of the current fiscal year. The industries in the region have been hit hard by the removal of palm oil from the list of top 20 commodities exported to India. Palm oil has been banned by the Indian government as it is imported from third countries like Indonesia and Canada. Enters Nepal, is processed in Nepal and then returned to the Indian market, affecting Indian industry. Palm oil worth rupees 18.31 billion was exported from Nepal to India through Birganj Customs checkpoint last year. Welcome back, and now the international news. National Guard troops poured into the U.S. Capitol yesterday as governors answered the urgent pleas of U.S. defense officials for more troops to help safeguard Washington. According to the Associated Press, governors are keeping anxious eye on possible violent protest in their own states. Military leaders called states an unprecedented appeal for more National Guard troops to help lock down much of the city in the days before President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. Governors responded, some agreeing to send an extra dozen, 100 or even 1,000, while others said no. The calls reflect fears that violent extremist groups are targeting the city in the wake of the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6. The threats range from armed insurgents to possible attempts to plant explosive devices at so-called soft targets. Active duty force are routinely prepared to respond to emergencies in Washington, such as flight violations in restricted airspace over D.C., and a quick reaction force is always on standby. Other active duty units will take part in various inaugural ceremonies. India started inoculating health workers yesterday in what is likely the world's largest COVID-19 vaccination campaign. According to the Associated Press, Indian authorities hope to give shots to 300 million people, roughly the population of US and several times more than its existing program. First dose was administered to a sanitation worker at the All Indian Institute of Medical Science in the capital, New Delhi, after Prime Minister Narendra Modi kick-started the campaign with a nationally televised speech. It was not clear whether Modi, 70, had received the vaccine himself, as other world leaders have in an effort to demonstrate the shots safely, AP reported. His government has said politicians will not be considered a priority group in the first phase of the rollout. You are watching Janata Bulletin, and now the latest from the world of sports. Leicester City climbed to the second in the Premier League as they won a tightly contested encounter against Southampton at King Power Stadium. James Maddison scored in the 37th minute for the Foxes, while Harvey Barnes added a second deep into second-half stoppage time. It was a strange sight for the supporters as the players were involved in a socially distanced celebration. Today, the two most successful clubs in the English football history will go head-to-head against each other as Liverpool host Manchester United at Anfield. The winner of the match will have the chance to go to the top of the Premier League table. We are at the end of Janata Bulletin and the headlines once again. Prime Minister Oli assures of safeguarding achievements of Federal Republic, tells Desden leaders to return to mainstream party. Schools in Kathmandu Valley to open from today. Local authorities give a green signal for resuming classes. Nepali expedition team creates a new mountaineering record, becomes the first team to climb K2 peak during winter season. International troops pour into Washington for additional security. States vow to quell possible violence on January 20. And Leicester City jumps to second in the Premier League table after a 2-0 win. Chelsea earn a hard-fought victory at Fulham. And that's all from the English News Desk for today. You can follow Janata Television and our programs on various social media platforms, including on our website janatasamachar.com. Keep watching Janata Television. Namaste.